Good morning. We'll call to order the February 28th, 2025 meeting of the HVAC IAQ meeting. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the flag which it stands. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. While we're standing, I just wanted to have a moment of silence for our justice, for Ken Lindsley, who had an untimely passing. Okay. Thank you. All right. Into it. Can I get a motion for approval of the 1/17/2025 minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from 1/17/25.
I'll second.
Hearing a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can I get a motion for approval of the 1/31/2025 minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from 1/31/25.
I'll second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any discussion?
None.
None.
None from either. All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to phase one updates. Tim, Mark, I'm not sure who wants to go first.
Yep.
Osborne Hill.
I'll lead off. Really quickly, we did do the reconciliation of our books to the general ledger from the town. There were a couple invoices that the town had that we did not, mostly the builder's risk invoices. So I will send those around for review. The other item I want to cover is the tester and balancer. With the town of Fairfield is under the commission agent. They went out to 3 tab contractors. They have each tab contractor's proposal back. They've leveled them off. We'll have this ready for review and approval at the next meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tim.
Okay. So again, I know we all walked about 2 weeks ago. Things have still been moving on schedule. Here at Fairfield Woods, we're pretty much wrapped up with majority of the duct work, except for a couple areas by our office, which we were purposely kind of keeping out until a little bit later. Over at Osborne, we also have pretty much all interior ductwork installed with sound attenuators. It is now getting insulated. So ductwork here at Fairfield Woods has been fully insulated, and we have moved that crew over to Osborne. North Stratfield started receiving ductwork this week. So we are gearing up to start to get that stuff installed today into the next couple weeks. So we'll keep you guys updated as to how smooth it goes over at North Stratfield. And other than that, we're moving along. We're on schedule. We're working right now to kind of get our schedule set for the April break, so we can take advantage of that week while school is out to do some work on the roofs, pretty much of all 3 schools. We have rooftop ductwork and a few other items that we want to do while the schools are out for that spring session. So, and then as far as just to touch on UI, our friends over there, we had a conversation earlier this week with Ramon, got him in about the Osborne logistics. So we reviewed our sequence. We kind of just made sure everybody was on the same page. He has been working now internally, which is what he does after we have this meeting. He gets his scope aligned, and then we would start to set up and schedule that we march to. So I'm waiting for his comments. I should be getting them back by today. And then we'll just review them with him one last time, and then we'll start to schedule our work basically, but hopefully in the next couple weeks once if the weather continues to cooperate and the ground softens up and we can start to do some of that work out in front of the school there where the transformer pad's going to be sitting. So all in all, everything's going well. Principals are happy. We have not had any negative feedback. Anything that has come up, we've addressed as ASAP, and we continue to push forward.
Going into the weeds a little bit, that corner that we talked about at Woods, we all huddled about and stared up for a little while. Did that corner get completed? That was the one that had the significant movement and pipes.
The IT corner. So yes, so we well, one of the ATPs we have here today is for part of the above ceiling allowance, which we can discuss for the wiring cleanup. So we do have Ferguson gearing up to release that trade to get some of those IT wires started. We did have the town come out, Donna, I believe, and Marco, and a couple other attendees that were reviewing that fiber optics question. So we deem that one of the lines is, I believe, still active and the other one is dead. So we're going to most likely be able to cut out one of the lines, and they may need to kind of move one of those, the ones in the small little flex tube that I had shown you guys when we were out there. So, but that one we may be able to move it too. We got to see how much play we have in that line because it is that flexible tube. So we're going to look and see if we can kind of get it out of the way without having to relocate the complete line, but we're still looking into that particular one. But at least the rigid is dead. So the rigid we can cut out. So that's moving along. We're diving into that one.
Okay. Any other updates from Bill Bain, Mark? Anybody that things missed? Questions, Joe, Rodney?
No.
None for me.
Fitzhouse.
Our switchgear is still tracking the same. So we're tracking the end of March for that as well. So we touch base with Ferguson every Monday, and as of this past Monday, we still have the same status last week of March that it's supposed to ship out.
Okay.
Is that, and I assume that's per schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these were Siemens switchgear?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any updates on Fitzhouse?
They are the contractors looking to schedule the training for Fairfield Public Schools, so that is in the process. Everybody's still engaged. They're still working on items they're still all playing nice and working towards the solution.
Okay.
And I'll jump right into phase 2 if there's no other questions on Fitzhouse.
Thank you.
The 90% CD drawings, construction documents are due March 14th. Confirmed with Jesse earlier this week. I sent out a reconciliation meeting 1 week later than I anticipated. I just sent out a new one for moving it up to April 9th. So the estimates are due April 4th. We will have the reconciliation meeting that on the 9th. Well, it's currently scheduled on the 9th unless there's conflicts. We should have a final estimate for the week of the 14th. So we can we'll need a special building committee to approve it to go to bid. So we can get we need to approve it, or the building committee needs to approve it prior to the Board of Ed approving it, and the next meeting for the Board of Ed is scheduled for April 22nd. So we're on track there, and we are proceeding.
What's the waterfall for Tomlinson? What was put in the budget, if you will?
It was the DD estimate that was in it. I don't have the waterfall pulled up, but yeah, it was the DD estimate that ultimately got into the waterfall.
Okay.
See if I had that at my fingertips. Right.
That's all right. I was just looking for the number we're shooting for, so we don't have to go to the boards with or at least the selectmen with our tail between our legs.
No, we don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't have that up. Okay. Mark, you're saying that why would we need a special meeting? Why wouldn't we just do that on the 11th? The reconciliation's done.
If everything is, if the, with the reconciliation meeting on the 9th, if we finalize the estimates and we're good with the estimates, yeah, we could do it the 11th. I was just giving the building committee time to review the final estimate after the reconciliation meeting.
Mark, I replied to you the 9th. Unfortunately, in the morning doesn't work for me. The 10th is better. But let's chat and see. I mean, it's not
Yep.
a large estimate. It's a fairly small estimate. So we'll see how dates align.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll be so the 11th in the special meeting.
We
will
might be
fluid.
able to still make the 11th, but we'll advise as we get closer. When we receive the documents, we start doing our takeoff, we can nail down the dates. Jeff.
Yeah, all right, we'll keep that fluid, then we'll make that decision on the 11th.
Yep.
Okay. All right, any questions on Tomlinson other than Rodney's? I'm gonna make a note. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Okay. All right, moving on then. ATPs. Least favorite aspect here.
Sent out the package on Wednesday. Instead of sending out the individual ATPs, I just attached everything to the cover, and it's bookmarked so you can jump back and forth. I'm not sure if that's a better system than individual, but I will take your feedback. First one up is ATP 001R3, which is this is an allowance ATP for Woods. And this goes back to, this is in combination with ATP 36, which is the DOAS 1 and 2 existing low voltage cabling conflicts. So ATP 1 is the authorization to use the balance of the allowance of $37,500.
After these two ATPs, we're in the clear as far as additional work in the ceiling.
All the ceilings are opened up. All the ductwork should be coordinated at this point. I'm looking for confirmation from BL and Gilbane. Everything's been worked out as far as where the ductwork and sprinkler and all the MEPs above ceiling.
Yeah, ductwork has been fully coordinated. Like I said, pretty much everything except for our office space has been installed to this point. Yeah, we've opened up every ceiling we have to open up again, with the exception of our office. So we are confident that there would be no other, ceiling work that has to take place other than what we're discussing now with this IT cabling and fiber.
So even it has.
But that IT cabling is in this quote, is in the ATP 36.
Right. Sorry, Jeff, you had a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Does anyone know off the top of their head the size of these DOAS units? Roughly CFMs?
Not off the top of our head, but we're happy to share the schedule if you like. We could do that on the submit. You want a copy of that?
Sure. And they're train units?
Yes.
And the BMS is what company? JCI?
I thought it's ABS.
Well, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
what was
ABS
that?
is the installer. ABS is the installer.
ABS. Allerton.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
so
wondering.
yeah, absolutely, Joe. We could share the approved submittals. Maybe Magdalena, you could email the approved. You only want the DOAS or do you want the RTUs too?
Are the RTUs communicating with the BMS properly?
As designed, yes.
Okay. No, just the DOAS. I'm just wondering. It just seems like I know these controls jobs get ridiculous money wise. It just seems like a lot. But I know there's probably a lot of hours in there.
Yeah, I don't know. You want to comment, Jesse, on that question? I think they have their own controls integrated.
What were you
I've
referring to, Joe?
the DOAS units and their inability to communicate with the BMS. I've dealt with this on a lot of different jobs, so I'm
No, but
familiar.
who's saying sorry, the inability. What do you mean of inability? We're not talking about any inability. Are you talking about the ATP right here for DOAS 1 and 2?
Yeah.
No, this cleanup has nothing to do with the DOAS and the wiring. This is about there's existing cabling that's in the way of the duct drop for the DOAS. It has nothing to do with the actual integration of the system. This is all existing condition. Yeah, I started listening. I was like, wait, I think you were maybe getting a little sidetracked there. Yeah, this is so when the DOAS comes down through the building, there's a bunch of IT. You weren't here for that walk, but there's a bunch of like thick bundles, upwards of 150 wires of IT cabling existing that was in the past. So we need to move that out of the way in order to get that duct drop to come through where the DOAS lands on the roof. So that's what that's referring to. There's no issue at the moment with any kind of like integration or wiring of the systems and the controls.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was I don't know if it was at this location or another. That's why I was confused.
That's the issue at Fitz, right?
And that's been cleared up at this point, right?
No.
Or working, but it's not going to be $40,000, right?
What do you think, Tim, as far as when you guys assemble this ATP to clear up all the infrastructure, to clear the path?
So, Joe, wait a minute. Is your question regarding Fitz House or your question regarding the wiring movements at Woods?
I thought this was the Fitz House issue where the units weren't communicating with the BMS.
No, this is Fairfield Wood.
Okay. Yeah. You're welcome for wasting the last 5 minutes.
So the Fitz House, in my
No,
understanding of Fitz is that when Mark's comment is that they're still at the table, meaning that Train is working through the issue as far as getting those units to work with all of the standard controls. And there's not a resolution yet, but that's still being worked through. To my knowledge, I guess the question to be asked would be, do we have any financial exposure at Fitz House for those controls, or is that all on Train as far as getting that to work?
Hi, Jeff, it's Sal. At this point, I believe everything is still a warranty issue.
Okay. That's what I thought.
They haven't demonstrated complete control of the unit.
Right.
Yeah, so it's nobody's calling out a design fault. This is we got a new car and it keeps doing this one thing and we keep bringing it back to the shop. They got to fix it.
Okay. Yeah. So from this committee's perspective, there's no financial. There should not be any financial risk. So back to Woods.
Okay.
Is that nice, clean?
That's the rat's nest that we're talking about.
Okay.
You can the rigid conduit is the fiber, the white flexible tube is the other fiber, and then you have Cat 6 and fire alarm wire up there.
The rigid's coming out, right?
Correct.
Yeah, the rigid was per Donna, the rigid was dead. So we can they were double checking one more thing on that, but they were 99% sure it's dead and we can just cut that out completely. So that'll be a quicker removal. And then the white, they were just finalizing their investigation on today. I actually believe they were going to get us an answer by today because they were here Wednesday, I believe, looking at this. So, and the cabling, again, this is an estimated ATP because we have, it's a unit cost per wire, and they're going through and, they have that's like their estimate for what is existing at the moment.
So in your estimate here, it includes the moving of the rigid.
Yeah, we
Instead of
carried, I
just
think
cutting it
20,
out.
we held 20,000 in that ATP, Rodney, for the rigid and that little white flex tube. If obviously we get to cut out that hard conduit, just cut it out in place, it'll be a lot quicker and easier and cheaper. So I do hope that number comes a good bit down. But once we get the final confirmation about the white tube, we'll have a better idea of what we're looking at too for that portion of the work.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so back to, so ATP 001R3. So I'll make a motion to approve ATP 001R3 and identified above ceiling existing wiring cleanup and management. This is an estimated in the amount of $37,500, and this against the allowance. I get a
Second.
Thank you, Rodney. Any other discussion on this one? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Why don't we jump to 4 first, Mark? So 036 DOAS. This is more wire management.
Yes. This is
This
the
correlates what we just talked about.
Right. Now, so that work is still to be completed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mark, I noticed you have it flagged as a contingency versus an allowance.
Yes, it's a contingency draw versus an allowance draw because the balance with the approval that was just granted on ATP 1, that was for the balance of the owner allowance 1. So with what was just approved and what they have in balance from the phase 1 or part 1 of phase 1, there's a balance on the OA of 62.5. The total relocation pricing from Ferguson came out to be 81.3. So, and then the fiber optic is estimated at 20. If you take out the balance of the allowance against this 100, you're left with 40, 41, 42, or 40. And then with everything, it would mark up, it comes out to be 42,747.
Okay. So make a motion to approve ATP 036 DOAS 1 and 2 existing low voltage cabling conflicts in the amount of $42,747. This is an estimated ATP against contingency.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mark, what's left in the contingency for Fairfield Woods?
I can get you that number. It is a healthy number. Let me see if I can track that down while we're on.
The question being in the allowance for wiring, Rodney, or
No.
the total?
No.
The contingency, the amount of contingency remaining.
No.
It's all right. We can proceed. Just curious.
I just found your question before, by the way, about Tomlinson. The pre-GMP number is 5,531,690. So rounding 5.5 million. Okay, we have an open motion. Can I get a vote? All in favor of 036?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. So let's go back to door hardware.
Vestibule door hardware. This occurs at all three schools. This is the hardware was it's basically a scope gap between the regular project and the HVAC project and the security vestibule project. The pre-bid, it was the door hardware was on the plans. Pre-bid RFI came in during the HVAC bid time regarding the ballistic hardware. It was excluded. It said it would be part of the security vestibule bid. And then it was excluded from the general trades hardware bid during the security glazing bid. It was the spec section while it was included. That pre-bid RFI came in, asked if they had the hardware, and that we told them that it was excluded, that we want the door hardware coming from one supplier, and that it was in the HVAC job, which was incorrect. So this is the door hardware for the security vestibules, for the ballistic, for the doors in the security vestibule at all three schools.
It's a $103,000 mistake. That's, I mean,
So that $100,000 for the actual hardware was in the original budget, though, correct?
Correct.
But it was missed, it wasn't ordered, and now it's becoming an ATP, so we're paying
It
some number of
was,
thousands of dollars of overage.
It was not assigned to a sub to carry in their bid.
Who missed it?
There was,
The question becomes who's accountable for the miss? And therefore, who's accountable for the ATP overage fees?
So I guess we can start with I think, Tim, there was a bid RFI, correct?
Yes. So the question came in the bid RFI process asking about who would own the ballistic. And I think the key word here is ballistic, which is what has caused a lot of the concern or a lot of the issue. Is it said who owns the ballistic hardware? BL had answered that RFI saying that it wouldn't be with the general trades because it would be with the specialty contractor, which would have been, I guess, Cherry Hill. So that RFI was answered. We excluded it from general trades because we were under the impression that it was a specialty hardware coming from someone who had to have that, whatever. That was like what they do. They specialize. So the general hardware is all with acoustics. Where I think there was an issue was when the town went out to bid with Cherry Hill, that spec section, the hardware is actually not necessarily ballistic. It's more of a standard hardware. So that's where there started to become a trouble because Cherry Hill did not pick that up in their bid. So it basically laid there unpurchased. If the bid RFI was answered that it wasn't specialty hardware, it would have been picked up with acoustics, of course. And I think even if it didn't come back saying that there was supposed to be a specialty contractor, it would have been more clear. So I think the answer to the RFI triggered the gap in who picked it up. And if you look at the spec section, there is no ballistic rated spec section of hardware as well. So I think that's another discrepancy that could have led to the confusion as to who actually owned that portion of the system.
So nowhere in this project was, whether it was the vestibule or the HVAC, was there a spec for ballistic hardware? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Why? Why was there no spec for ballistic hardware?
Just to clarify, the door hardware was on the drawings as part of the original bid package.
You're breaking
So-
up, Rebecca.
Yeah, I can't.
Sorry. Just to clarify, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's still choppy.
Just to clarify, the door hardware was on the original bid drawings. It's not, the allocation of the bid packages is not BL's responsibility.
Correct. However, because the hardware is part of the vestibule area, which was, I believe it was even a bid alternate to all the trades, because it's a separate package, because it had a different state project number. And that's where the question was asked, because we had a bid alternate for the vestibule for the trades that owned work, but then the glass, the ballistic rated glazing, and all the systems were going to be procured by others. So the hardware effectively should have gone with that package. And
Okay,
that's where
so
the confusion is, because we have two sets of documents. We have the HVAC documents, we have the vestibule documents. However, within the vestibule documents, we were instructed to price up at the time, price up all the MEP and all the architectural work as ad alternates. Okay? Because we were instructed to say the window frames and all the doors were to be procured by the municipality or by the town. So the hardware should have gone with that package. And that's why the RFI came back from the trades, because they saw the ad alternate for the vestibule. It's like, what do we do with this hardware? And the direction came back and said, well, that hardware goes to that package. And that's what created the confusion. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim.
No, that would be correct.
okay, so now that the finger pointing's out of the way, the cost of the vestibule door hardware, there is some number that's allocated that was already in budget, correct? So if that had been put in and everything went through correctly and it was caught, this wouldn't have been an ATP and it would have just been a normal budget spend. Am I correct in that?
It would have been in the GMP, correct.
So my ask then is to Rebecca, through you and Amar, you guys can go back and thumb wrestle and figure out who's accountable for this, and then figure out who's going to pay my overage. I really don't like paying ATP overage numbers for somebody who screws up on the project. So you guys missed it, but someone's accountable for this. So figure out who's accountable and get back to me. I don't know what to tell you on that. I mean, unless you're going to tell me that if we don't vote on it today, that we're going to miss the, there's going to be a project slippage.
Well, I think what we need to do is, this is an ATP authorization. We got to get the hardware. If the hardware was not procured, it's not part of the GMP. It's not included in the GMP. So I think.
Well, I just heard different than that, Mark. Mark just said that it is in the GMP.
It was
So
not in the GMP. It was in the budget for the GMP.
It's in the original estimate, you're saying. It's not in the GMP.
In the original estimate, correct.
Yeah, it's not in the GMP, Jeff. It is not.
Is this hardware readily available, or are we looking at 30-week lead times?
We're looking at like 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of the project is we need to procure
And we
this
need-
hardware.
We need it.
So
Yeah,
eventually,
we need to
we
scale
have
it down.
to
All right. What I want to see is, I want to see what was in the estimate for the vestibule before I vote on this. I'm sorry. I asked for it when we did the walkthrough, and I haven't seen it yet.
Has the glass been ordered yet to go with the hardware? Isn't the glass through the town?
Correct. The glass is through Cherry Hill, which is off the state contract. The exterior aluminum has been ordered, which is a longer lead time. The interior set of doors has not. We are getting the shop drawings, I believe this week we should have them, or next week. And then that has the 10-week lead time. The glass going in is the shorter lead time of both the aluminums.
But it sounds like if the building committee doesn't want to vote on this ADP and it's a lead time of 6 weeks, they still can actually, in theory, vote on it next week and the hardware will still arrive before the glass.
The challenge is, Jason, is we need to release this hard because we have to go through the 6-week lead time is from approved shop drawings. So we still have to release the vendor. They have to prepare submittals. Submittals have to be sent. I don't know if we sent the submittals yet. Did we get submittals for this, Tim?
Yes, we did get the hardware.
We got the submittals. That's been released. Okay, so that's
yes,
good.
those have been submitted, but we have not been able to release them officially yet on the product.
So effectively, yes, you can do that, but we do need this hardware to give to Cherry Hill so they can prep all the doors and the frames when the frames arrive. So they do have a little bit of a sensitivity from a timing perspective. I think that ultimately we have to get the hardware. We have to buy the hardware. That has to be procured. It was not bought by the town. It was not bought by the GMP. So there's a gap. Now we're talking about the differential. We can get back to you on the differential next week and we can tell you, okay, the differential that you bought it, and we could show the estimate. We'll share the estimate today. That's not a problem. And it's really what we're discussing here is the premium or the differential is that you bought it in the base contract versus what are you paying for it as a premium. We could show you the two. And but ultimately we do have to get this hardware. And it's not included in the GMP. It wasn't the original estimate, but there was a gap in the buyout.
Forgive my ignorance. If I approve an ATP today and I have roughly $9,000 or $10,000 of ATP fees, what is the mechanism to claw back that money?
It depends where ultimately we decide who's call it at fault.
We'll go there in a second, but is there a mechanism? I'm just curious what the mechanism is, Rodney or Mark.
The mechanism is simple. Just like we handled the conduit. If this ATP is, I don't know how much it is. I can't see it. It's too small. Let me just give you some.
There's roughly $10,000 per ATP.
Okay.
Roughly about $10,000 per ATP in fees.
If there's with fees,
bonds, insurance, overhead.
Oh, it's a change to our contract. By contract, I have to apply the markup. I have to. Okay, by contract. So what you're asking me is that $37,000 number, which is the trade cost, the acoustics line item. Had you bought it in the base bid, you could have saved 10%, let's say, which is $3,700. If that's the case, and you say, "Hey, Gilbane, you guys screwed this up," I'll take the $3,700 out of my contingency. Meaning I will discount this ATP by $3,700 plus the small markup. Does that make sense, Jeff? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, so approving the ATP today moves the process forward. We still have to procure.
Let's take a step back. When did we know that there was a discrepancy? I mean, we're getting pressured right now because of the 6-week delay.
Yeah.
When did we realize that nobody had the hardware?
We didn't have a meeting last week, Rob.
No, I understand that. But when did we understand that this was a problem?
Didn't you know about it? Was it about a month ago?
It was about, like mid-January or so. We had a coordination meeting and we had acoustics and Cherry Hill in the same room. We were discussing the measurements, the verification of the field, all the stuff. And it came up that the security hardware was not with either contractor. We started looking back through all the documents, looked through the bid RFIs we mentioned, and we deemed that that no one had it in their scope. So we asked acoustics to go out immediately and try to get pricing, which took a couple weeks to go to the vendor, get pricing in. We started to get the ATP assembled earlier in the month for the meeting that we did not review it last week or a couple weeks ago. And that's kind of our timeline is where we're at.
In the meantime, Rodney, I did release, that's why we released the shop drawings, because I knew those are small, minimal costs. I was like, just release the shop drawings. I have to get the hardware. It's an
I
item we
understand you have to get the hardware. I understand that, but we're looking at $103,000 screw up. And you know, it's, you know, you guys knew a month and a half ago, and it's just coming up in this meeting as an ATP. And then you're telling us that we need to do that, we need to approve this today because we have a 6-week time frame.
You can postpone it to the next meeting. It's fine. It's fair to postpone it to the next Friday meeting. I'm totally cool with that. If we'll send you the backup, the estimate. I'm not saying be approving it, and in order for us to go ahead and proceed and authorize that, we still have to. You're not giving me a change order for this, Rodney. You just give me authorization. You haven't. Before we go to change order, we're going to hammer this thing down, and we're going to hammer it by next Friday. This is only to give us authorization to go get the hardware. I'm not going to give them a change order. I'm just telling them to proceed. We still have to hammer out the dollars and the numbers. So no pressure. If you want to punt it to next week, happy to do so. It's just we were hoping to discuss this at the last meeting. It didn't happen. We're at this meeting 2 weeks later. If we are confident we're going to have a meeting next Friday, happy to table this one to next Friday. But I think for the purposes of just proceeding, we can hammer out the dollars. You're not giving me a change order for this. The ATP
Mark,
does not.
There's no change in the price. It's not going up.
It's going to go down. If anything, it will go down.
Yeah.
If anything. But this is just to give us the authorization to continue proceeding with procuring the hardware. I'm fine to punt it to next week, as long as we don't.
It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, just to be clear.
2 weeks. Oh, that's yeah.
So it'd be the March 14th.
Yeah. Yeah, that's getting a little. Like I said, I don't want to. This is not a pressure by any stretch of the imagination. Please don't. I don't want to present it in that fashion. We have encountered the issue about a month ago or so. We were hoping to discuss it last meeting. It didn't happen. This 2 weeks from now, we're getting tight. But like I said, you're not giving me a change order. We're going to come back to you and happy to, even if you want to have a special meeting to go over this.
Okay, well, let's pull, so we're going to defer on voting on the ATPs for the doors today. We're going to get estimates, the original estimates for the doors.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to, we'll figure out the timing and the necessity around that.
Sure.
Once you guys pull that together. So hopefully you'll have that quickly and we can move towards that.
Yeah.
All right, VRF cassette locations. So I'll make a motion to approve ATP 037. I didn't memorize it that fast, Mark. 037 RF
37. Yep.
086 VRF cassette locations. This is the amount of $1,851. This is an actual and it's coming out of contingency.
I'll second the
second.
motion.
All right, discussion.
None.
All right,
None.
hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next ATP 038 RFI 100 domestic water line and vent obstructing duct. This is in the amount of $1,638. This also is coming out of contingency, and this is an actual, not an estimate. Can I get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. Very good. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We are passing on 028 out of North Stratfield. We're passing on 017 out of Osborne Hill. We have an And just to note, we have a refund or a contingency adjustment for $8,709.13 from Cherry Hill for the vestibule door material change. We do not need to vote on that. There's the details is in the packet. Anyone wants to see that? Okay.
And there's an additional $8,000 switching from a different manufacturer for the glass, for the exterior of the building. That is under review, that we have not.
Wonderful. Okay, excellent. Okay.
Mark, just quick, I don't see the bulletin number 2 ATP. Had you prepped everybody with that one?
No, I did not.
Is it
I
significant?
did not get it in time to get it to him.
Want to get the initial shock over now, or do you want, is it small enough that we'll just deal with it next time?
What's it for?
I mean, it's a larger cost. It's for the North Stratfield main office heating renovation, heating revisions, cabinet unit heaters. We got to remove existing ones that are failing, and put in new ones. I mean, as far as a timeline, I mean, we need to get the items ordered. We can't do any of the work. We have to get submittals, and we got to get all the, the stuff ahead and then get everything ordered. And I think they're like a 6 to 8 week lead time for that. I mean, we can't touch them till the heating season's over, but we do want to get everything going so we can address it as soon as possible.
Okay, so that's, we'll need to get pull that together. Well, so if I guess I'd say just get that together quickly so that if we have a special meeting to go back over the door hardware, you can incorporate that as well.
Yeah, it's maybe Mark just didn't have the time to give it to you. It's ready to go. We have BL's signature and everything on it as far as review. So if we do have a special meeting, we can get it in front of you guys.
Okay. All right, moving on to invoice packet.
Yep.
All right.
I was about to ask you, Rodney, if you did your math.
Yeah, no, I did the math. I make a motion to approve Gilbane's 4 invoices dated 1/31/2025. The total amount of $1,299,008.
$1,299.08.
Did I say 1,000? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. $1,299,008.
Very good. I'll second the motion. Any discussion on that? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Similarly, I will make a motion to approve all of BL's invoices dated 1/31/2025 for a total amount of $20,486.56.
I'll second the
I'll
motion.
second that one.
No, sorry, Joe, stealing your thunder.
All right.
All right. Any discussion?
No.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Collier's is easy. I'll make a motion to approve Collier's invoice 1022881 dated 2/6/2025 in the amount of $13,930.80.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Van Zelm has 2 invoices dated 1/16/2025 and the other one dated 2/13/2025 for a total amount of $9,662.32.
You leave me hanging now, Joe? I'll second the motion.
He didn't make a motion. He just stated that I was waiting for a motion.
Didn't I make a motion? Okay.
I think it's okay.
All right. Any discussion on Ben Zelm? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. All right. Old business. Mark, you mentioned the GL reconciliation.
Yes.
Just for, it's been a long time, but it was in my notes. We did do the presentation to the Board of Selectmen. So for those of you who came, thank you. We waited a long time in the hallway and got a few minutes at the end there. We've talked about the control issue at Fitz. Rodney, I did reach out to Mr. Steele, I believe, right, at the chairman of the Special Building Committee.
Spectral.
He's not gotten back to me. So if you could, I was trying not to burden you with that, but if you could make a point when you meet, just to make sure there's clarity and coordination on the roof with the ductwork.
Yeah. I'll reach out to him.
Okay, we talked about the switchgear. Talked about that. All right. Any other old business, Rodney or Joe, that I missed?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. From a new business perspective, we've covered door hardware. I had that note. So let's talk ceiling tiles. Anybody want to give an update? I know that went to, so we're talking the phase 1 first, I guess we'll cover with Armstrong.
Yeah, so I just received correspondence yesterday evening that we brought the rep out right after our walkthrough with you guys 2 weeks ago on the 15th. He reviewed the conditions. He put in a claim internally with Armstrong. That claim came back to be rejected just due to the nature of the installation that we discussed with you guys on site. So Armstrong will not be honoring any sort of defective tile. They checked the tile batches to make sure that there was no issue with the tile batches as far as like how they were produced or any conditions that could have made them faulty or prematurely sag. So any sagging that we are seeing potentially present is going to be deemed that it was just due to the conditions of the building, and that there wasn't a fully functioning AC system at that time of installation.
It just, when were these installed?
We were putting all the tiles, padding them out in August, late July, early August was when we were getting to it.
You couldn't do them in October, huh?
Okay.
Then they would have had Sal yelling at him.
Okay. So what else has been discussed on that front from you guys? Anything? Where do we go from here? From anybody's opinions?
So we worked on we did get final pricing in from the trades that would be required to go back and replace these tiles. That would be central acoustics, of course. That would also be black water with any tiles that have heads in them due to the bracket locations. And that would also be Ferguson Electric. That would have to do any cuts for like, the wireless Wi-Fi boxes, smoke alarm, etc. So we have ATP. We haven't drafted ATPs yet. We have PCIs that are ready for ATP. I've actually been working on just kind of a accounting ledger for this whole thing, just so we can kind of walk you through it. I can technically show that right now. Let me just bring that up quick.
It's probably a good thing we're all sitting down.
Yeah, we talked briefly about this one when we were doing the walkthrough. The number for phase 1, obviously, because of the areas, we have to remove tile, all the MEPs and the ceilings within the tile. After all, fire protection is a big one too, all the sprinkler heads. So it's a significant number for phase 1 to go back. You guys have already approved phase 2 to go to the human guard. Now it's going back and changing.
Just refresh my memory. What was phase 2 cost?
Phase
You
2, I
remember?
thought it was just under 40.
Right. Can you guys see my screen?
Make it a little bigger.
Yeah.
Can you blow it up?
Sorry. Is that a little better? So just to kind of go through right here. So we do have phase 2 and we have phase 1. So you guys haven't really seen the full phase 1 yet, as we've been kind of waiting to see what's going on with everything else with the warranty. This is the phase 2 that was pre-approved. So I just broke this out here per trade cost and then the Gilbane markups that would be present on each ATP. What I did here is I included the initial credit that we gave back a long time ago for the reduction in tile, just because it's, it is part of the whole equation. So for phase 2, again, this was already pre-approved. We've already gotten this
Just to be
the
clear,
central.
that when you're saying pre-approved, that $14,000 plus or $16,000, that was the change of material to the new Humagard
Yes.
tiles.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, which we
That
took
was
care of in
approved at the
past meeting.
January 31st meeting.
This
Yes.
is
So we're
Fairfield.
just showing that here.
Gotta mention the school. This is only Fairfield Woods.
Yes, right here, Fairfield Woods.
And then there's
So-
subsequently, there's another 13,000 for Osborne and some number for North.
Yes,
South.
I'm gonna scroll down to the
ATPs.
schools.
Yeah,
13
we
and
approved
12.
ATPs for all 3 schools to upgrade the material to address the new standard.
Correct.
Uh,
So
What was that
for-
ATP 05? Tim, I'm sorry,
that
I'm
was a credit. This was a credit change from back from the grid. Remember we did the clean grid
That's what-
versus the standard grid?
That's the grid.
Material
Okay, I
change.
was thinking okay, I thought the grid was more than that, but go ahead.
It was at North Stratfield, so I'll get to that. So again, this is per school. So again, Fairfield Woods being the largest school, Central Connecticut's hard price is $128.36. Ferguson came in at $42,328 and Blackwater at $26,261. Gilbane markups respectively on these costs are $18,918. So what I did is I just ran the calc here total. So I just did the 208 minus the 26 gives you so if you do these numbers here, you come up with 208,410, which is a subtotal here. The math here is just minus the credit, which is 205,442 for Fairfield Woods.
Just to be clear,
concept.
that's staying with a 2x4 grid, no grid work. And
Yes.
that's a wholesale replacement. That's every tile, regardless of condition.
Yes. So we'll go through, and we'll take out everything. We'll do all new cuts around the perimeters. We have to do all new tiles where the sprinkler heads are. And again, with the sprinkler, the reason why the sprinkler work is in there is that with these flex heads, you have to put a bracket onto the grid. Mm-hmm. So you have to take that bracket off and put that tile. So it adds another layer of labor. So we looked at a couple options to see if we get away with not doing that, but there is no feasible way to get the tiles in and out. It's too tight of a fit to get those tiles out. So we have to have Blackwater do this work to be safe, to have it be safely done. We have to drain the system down to do the work. So it is a bit more labor on that end. Osborne Hill, again, smaller footprint. So here are our numbers. We have 44,098, 16,971, and 10,944 with, again, Gilbane markup. Brings us to 79,228. There was no offset here for price because we had no grid issue at Osborne. And then North Stratfield, which is where we have the large chunk. We have, again, 63,111 for Central, 24,958 for Ferguson, 12,038 for Blackwater, and then Gilbane markup, subtotal 110. We have that offset there, which was the big one that Sal, I think, was thinking about with the 59,000, brings us to 50,482. When I take all of my grand totals for each school, it was 335,152 for the revisions of the phase 1 ceiling tiles.
Jesus.
The lead time on the Humagard. Is there a lead time?
The Humagard is still only a couple weeks out. That's what Jerry said. It's not a difference. It's just a different product. 2 weeks out.
Just to give you the full picture, obviously this work will have to be, if authorized, have to be summer work, Jeff. We can do something over April break, but probably not going to be able to complete the entire phase 1.
So the way I kind of looked at it, everybody here, is to Amar's point. So, the ceiling tile cuts are the dirtiest work because of the dust it creates. So that would be best done, obviously, over a break or over the summer. The sprinkler work also is critical to do on a break or the summer because you have to drain the system down every time. So it'd be better to drain the system down and let them have a lot of time to run and do the rooms in one shot. The rest of the tile pad out, we could be more flexible on when we do that because that would be strictly coming in and just popping out tiles and putting in the new 2x4 tiles. So it's a little less invasive. Obviously, it could create minor dust, but it wouldn't be nearly as intensive as like the sprinkler side and the cuts of the perimeter. So as far as schedule, again, we'd have to review that a bit more if we're going to proceed on this because we do have to get the phase 2 work buttoned up, per the base contract kind of ahead of time.
This is $400,000 in tile. It's incredible.
I have lots of questions and comments. I'm going to jump around a bit here quick. One, did you, I guess as a Gil Bain Sal discussion, there was some discussion around for phase 2 with the tiles to do new edging. Did that discussion and estimate occur?
Jerry's working on that. The ROM, yeah, for like the perimeter, you mean the new perimeters?
The wall angle.
Yeah, we noticed in the original install, there's quite a bit of waving, and the ask was to say how much would it be incrementally to. That was the original idea, was to leave the external edging pieces in place and just do new grid work. So if we replace that edging, what would the ATP be for that if we did that work? That was one question. And then the other topic was 2x2 versus 2x4. And is that something that we wanted to pursue or not? And I guess to get opinions on that. And I don't know if there's a cost, what the cost increase would be there.
Yeah, so to help clarify a little bit on the edge molding, perimeter edge molding, Jeff, the challenge is how the existing is fastened to the walls. If they shot it in, which typically they do, when you do pull that out, it will spoil the block potentially. Now you have to carry some patching and painting. We can straighten out some of the waviness because, like I said, I think I mentioned during the walkthrough, we haven't had the punch list because we kind of put it on hold pending direction. If we're going to replace the tile, there's no sense of punch listing. But we could get the trade contractor to straighten out those waviness as part of the punch list. Okay, to keep it nice and neat and tight as possible. As it relates to the 2x2, yeah, there'll be a premium cost in addition because now you're adding another frosty to split the 2x4. So there's more grid material, obviously, and the tile itself has a little bit of a premium versus the 2x4, the 2x2. So yes, to answer your question, not exact numbers, I don't know, but there'll be a premium in addition to what you see in front of you.
I understand. I just was wondering, I guess the ask at that the last time we were all gathered, just to get an estimate or at least an order of magnitude of what that would mean in positives, and I guess if Sal's the importance of that. But I guess that's going to take on a different coloring giving cell C56 there. What about the so again, I apologize for jumping back to phase 1 existing work. There was a number of tiles that are damaged. Is that being attributed to the installation or the rework that was being done? It wasn't an insignificant quantity.
Yeah, I mean those are all we still own punch lists, so they should be addressed at no cost to you. Okay, the trade contractor does own. There's a now it depends. Some of it could be back charged to certain trades. If the MEP trades went in there and got too aggressive and they start breaking tiles, that could be potentially that. We do carry a small allowance for repair some of the tiles. Sometimes we call it unidentified damage. We don't know who was there as far as damage. I mean, the trades go up, but that's not a cost to you to repair those broken tiles and adjusting the frosties. And like I said, we still need a punch list in that phase. I don't think BL performed a punch list in that area yet.
I guess my point is that that's going to be a direct, and I don't know how significant of an issue against that 335 or whatever that exact number was.
It wouldn't affect, yeah, it wouldn't affect would not add more to it, no. There'd be
No,
no
it should
add to it.
subtract. It should subtract. And if there's 10% that are bad, it would subtract it by 10%. I mean, it's if we're talking about replace, we would be doing that. You'd be doing that work as a punch list item regardless. So we're not
Oh, I
going to
see
pay
what
for
you're
it. We're not
saying.
going to pay for it twice and then do it as a right.
Yeah, but he owns it in the contract, so that it really depends on. Majority of what I've seen is like I said, he still owns a punch list to go through. If the tile was installed and cracked, he owns it. He carried that in his bid, I guess what I'm saying. For him to address punch lists in his bid. I don't
understand
know
from
the credit
but from a
value
timing
offer.
perspective, we're going to have to do that punch list for ceiling tiles before we approve any ATPs because that's going to have an effect on the ATP number. That's my point.
I mean, we can ask him, but I don't know what kind of credit I can get out of him to say, hey, what's your credit for not doing punch list? I think that's what you're asking me.
Should be a line item on the rec.
But this punch list is not, yes. there is
Solely ACT,
yeah.
correct.
My point is, Mark, if you're going to replace 100 tiles because of punch list, we're not going to include those 100 tiles in the cost of replacement work or whatever, because it would have been replaced regardless, is my point. So that doesn't make sense to pay for that as part of that number. So that would be a debit against that estimate. And then I guess the other question that arises is, do we need to do every single tile, or do we just do the ones that are damaged or bellied?
With the no Humidart material?
Leaving, if the tile's existing.
The tile's not that close of a match that it wouldn't look obvious. I'll make that statement. They're close they look close, but side by side, there's an obvious difference. So it would look haphazard.
Yeah, so the haphazard look would, yeah, I understand your point, Sal. I guess all it's doing is making how it would have looked 6 months from now, it's going to look sooner than later. Because you would have started replacing those next year with the new tiles anyways, but I hear you. It's just a lot of money.
Sal, in the district, what's the standard?
We've on the past few projects, and when I'm saying few projects, I'm talking Riverfield, Holland Hill, Mill Hill. It was the fine fissure Humigard or other manufacturer equivalent to that tile. It was not this Armstrong, whatever it is, 926 tile.
Is it 926 is what we have in there now for phase one?
Is that what it is, Tim? I forgot the exact. It's an Armstrong. It's a contractor, 1 year warranty.
It's an Armstrong.
Building out a strip mall kind of, strip store. Yeah, a little strip store on the side of the road that it's going to have a small bodega or something like that, and a dry cleaner, and nobody really cares, and the tiles fall out after a while anyway, and nobody ever replaces them. This is a long-term, aesthetic, functionality. The bow does get severe after a long term. It's not what you would consider a normal maintenance item. We do replace tiles when there's a leak and a stain, as we discussed, but wholesale replacement of tiles. Hell, we don't even, you'd be surprised how infrequently we actually repaint. It's one of those things that's supposed to be there 20 and 30 years without somebody touching it. So if we leave it alone, we'll be touching it much sooner than that, and it's the cost that you're looking at plus some, because then it's not within the four corners of a large construction project. So you're adding on more mobilization and all that happy add-ons.
So Why didn't we follow the previous 4 or 5 school standards for this project?
Yeah.
Uh,
Did the engineer
Je-
specify something below Fairfield standards, or who approved that submittal?
Jesse, I think, answered that last time, that the fault was what they're specifying. I think he owned up to a mistake there in our last meeting, and
Yes,
that
he
was
did.
because of personnel moving around and what have you.
Yeah, B&L did say there was a misunderstanding.
I mean, we made it clear that we wanted that, we're following the specifications from those previous 3 schools that I mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we need to, there's a couple of vectors here that need to be flushed out. We need to figure out the, I guess, I don't know what to call it, the credit for existing damaged tiles. That would be put into a different bucket. We need to have more clarity, Rebecca, I guess takeaway for you is more clarity from BL of what's next from your side as far as addressing that item. And then I guess we'll get better numbers coming forward. Did I miss anything in that from big rocks that have to get moved on this one?
No, I think you got it.
Okay. All right. Anything else on ceiling tiles?
I think that's enough.
Yeah, that was my position as well. Okay. I don't have any other new business. Anybody else, Joe or Rodney, any other new business on your side?
No, sir.
None
Okay.
for me.
All right. Hearing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess we'll just call it the note. The next scheduled meeting is the 14th of March. And again, we will address any special meetings that have to happen based on the timing. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.